the agency is 5 years in, so coming into the role and looking at what my leadership contribution is going to be, it is very much about building on the strong foundations that have already been built in those first 5 years, but also work through how we can plan and prepare for the future as well. Working in an operational agency, just being really aware that there is always a person or people or a community at the other end of decisions or actions that we are making, and that we need to always be mindful of that and operate with absolute accountability. We have such strong foundations, and it really empowers us to be ambitious for the future and to recognise that there are challenges, but we should and could and must face those challenges in the integrity landscape, because without that, we're not going to change and we're not going to be as effective as we need to be in the future.
Welcome to Onside, the official podcast of Sport Integrity Australia. Our mission is to protect the integrity of sport and the health and welfare of those who participate in Australian sport.
Hello and welcome to Onside. I'm Tim Gable. As Sport Integrity Australia celebrates its 5th anniversary, it's also welcomed a new CEO. Dr Sarah Benson took on the role of acting CEO when David Sharp moved on at the end of 2024. Sarah joined SEA as a member of the senior executive team in 2023 with agency responsibility for driving a nationally coordinated response to sport integrity issues in Australia. She was the inaugural leader to the Safety in Sport division, strengthening the holistic integrity model to safeguard sport against all integrity threats. Sarah came to the role with a wealth of experience, particularly in science, having been the Chief Forensic Scientist for the Australian Federal Police. In March, Dr Benson was officially appointed to the CEO role, and she joins us today to chat about the job, how far the agency has come, and what the future holds. Sarah, thank you for joining Onside.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
How have you found the role? I guess it has huge responsibility, big remit. How have you found the role?
Yeah, so certainly coming into the role last year, whilst I was acting, I did come in with a level of caution and nervousness. But I've really enjoyed the journey of learning about the role, the agency more, and really defining how I was going to lead in the agency. So it's been such a great opportunity, and I was so humbled to be formally appointed in March this year. I've certainly got, by being in the role, a newfound appreciation for our agency, but also our people and the significant impact, but also the challenges that we face. So it's been a great journey. But also really grateful for the support that I've had from our staff members, but also our partners in that journey as I've taken the steps into the CEO role. One thing I was reflecting as I was preparing for this podcast was sometimes it's hard to be the new kid on the block, and I felt like that because I'd only been in sport 2 years. And some people also say it's lonely at the top, but certainly that's not the way I view it. Because the way I look at it, I've got a really collaborative and expert and professional leadership team. I'm so lucky to have such a supportive team, but also really great advisors. So we've got an athlete advisory group, a culture and safety advisory committee, our Sport Integrity Australia Advisory Council, Audit and Risk Committee, and also our Science and Medical Advisory Committee. So with all of that wealth of expertise and advice coming my way, I'm really well placed, and I've got such collaborative colleagues across the sport portfolio in Kieran and Michelle, great law enforcement partners, great CEOs across sport. So as you can see, it's such a supportive environment. So the way I see it is no agency operates effectively in isolation, and no leader should lead in isolation. And for me, I've really enjoyed it and love collaborating with other people.
What attracted you to the role? Have you got a passion for sport or integrity?
Yeah.
What is your passion and what attracted you
Yeah,
to this
so
role?
what attracted me to the role was purpose. The agency has such strong purpose to keep all sporting participants safe and to protect sport in Australia and also on the world stage. And having such a clear and strong purpose really attracted me to the role. But also an opportunity to lead in an agency with strong purpose and an opportunity to draw on my previous experience and expertise and bring that into the agency. And as soon as I stepped into the agency, the people is what attracted me to the role, because they're very professional, very committed, and such passion, and that really resonates with me. So
Yes.
many aspects.
If somebody had said to you, though, that 2 years ago, in 2 years' time, you'll be the CEO of Sport Integrity Australia,
Yeah.
what would your reaction have been then?
Absolutely no way. Like, there's no way that I would have ever aspired or had a career plan to be a CEO of a sporting agency, or any agency for that matter. I've always been driven by purpose, as I said, and I've always approached roles, often feel like I've been thrown in the deep end, but always approach roles by taking the time to understand the role and what the responsibilities are, working through and understanding the system in which we operate. And for me, coming into sport, it was a really new system with new partners, and then trying to work out how I can lead effectively and with accountability within that system. So I do give it my all, and I've learnt some hard lessons about work-life balance, but I've learnt those lessons now, which is really good. But I guess one of the things that drives me as well is I don't want to let people down. So that's what drives me, and I guess that's in part of how I've ended up where I am, and just really grateful to be where I am.
And coming from a science background, as I mentioned a moment ago, chief forensic scientist with the AFP, with that background, do you think it's given you a benefit going into a role like this, having that science background?
I think so. I look at the leadership across the sport ecosystem, and everyone's quite different and brings different strengths. And when I look at science, I do look at the fact that, I've been brought up on the basis of decisions are made based on an evidence base, and are free from bias, which is, I think, really important in sport integrity. Our processes and capabilities need to be assured, and we're only as good as our last mistake. So that's something that the forensic science industry has learnt the hard way, but certainly that's something that drives me to make sure that we've got trust and accountability. I think as scientists, we always strive to continuously improve, to learn, to innovate. We also like to work collaboratively to problem solve and solve complex problems, which is, really helpful as well, working across different teams and different partners. But as scientists, we always like to draw on the latest science and technology out there to be able to do better. And we like to work with foresight as well, and with partners to be able to look ahead at what's coming and be able to do our jobs better and protect whoever we're trying to protect. And I think the other lesson I've learned as being a scientist and a forensic scientist is that you need to lead with purpose and accountability. And I think coming into the CEO role, that's been absolutely fundamental principle.
Because the process is very important. You're a detail person, and process is very important. So
Yeah.
it fits comfortably, I would have thought, into this role.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to lose a bit of the detail sometimes, but yes, I'm
Yeah.
detail focused and analytical. Yeah.
Yes. So your priorities as CEO, you've had a little bit of time to think about, how you would like to lead the agency and what your priorities are. Can you just tell us about, what you see are the priorities for you?
I think as you said in the introduction, it's the agency is 5 years in. So coming into the role and looking at what my leadership contribution is going to be, it is very much about building on the strong foundations that have already been built in those first 5 years, but also work through how we can plan and prepare for the future as well. We all know when we talk about, particularly in Australia with 2032, with the Brisbane Olympics and Paralympic Games, it really is a driving point to make sure that we are looking forward to look at how we can do things differently. So that dual focus for me is really important, because we've got that opportunity. I've got that opportunity with the agency and our partners to look at how we do things differently in the future, and we have to as well, because if we want to be relevant and impactful in the future, the integrity environment is changing. It'll be different in 7 years' time, so we need to be planning for the future. So I think the priorities that I've set for the agency for the year ahead very much pick up on and align with our vision in the agency. So safe and fair sport for all, And, there's 4 of them. The first one, and no surprise, is around leading a national conversation on child safeguarding and protecting vulnerable people. And in that, recognising the work of those people on the front line and the amazing work that they do, and how we can further support them. Secondly, is to raise awareness of competition manipulation. There's some awareness out there, but it is an evolving integrity threat for sport, and to build foundations and capability in that space for Australia. And we've on a great pathway for some significant achievements this year and developments this year. And that includes potential integrity threats that can arise through criminal influence, through match fixing as well. So there's a lot to that. So that'll be a focus area for us also. Thirdly is to that influence transparency, and I don't think this comes as a surprise either, but influence transparency and trust in the global anti-doping system. And that's with a focus on inadvertent doping, whether or not that's through contamination or the use of illicit drugs. But also in that, making sure that we're protecting the health and welfare of athletes as well. And lastly, but certainly not least, is to make sure that we continue to have global influence and work through and support our partners in sport diplomacy, both to strengthen integrity frameworks across the world, but also to work with our partners across Oceania and Asia to make sure that we're working together and strengthening the environment together. So there's a lot in there, but as I said, it all aligns with our vision and really brings focus to where we're heading into the future.
Yes, I noticed that one of the priorities there in terms of influence when it comes to contamination, inadvertent doping, a lot of the work that Sport Integrity Australia is doing is behind the scenes. A lot of people may know not too much about what is happening there, but a lot of work is happening behind the scenes rather than being in the spotlight and in the media in that area.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And I think that's part of diplomacy. It's part of working collaboratively with partners, and really part of appreciating that sport is global, and the value of international partnerships, and certainly working directly with our international partners, including the World Anti-Doping Agency and our national anti-doping organisation partners around the globe, to look at where we're currently at in the system. Look at how we're functioning in it and see where there are opportunities to improve. So directly engaged, positioned well on formal working groups to advocate for Australian athletes, but also for athletes around the world as well, to make sure that we do learn and we do continuously evolve.
I guess coming into the office and coming into this role a short time ago, do you think your priorities are evolving? Do they change your priorities as you move along, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when I was setting the priorities, I did think about, are these actually going to stand the test of time and be helpful for us as an agency? But what I'd say so far is that at a high level, those priorities remain. But what has changed are the initiatives and the priority within or the priority of those initiatives under those. One example is our review of our complaints management framework. We've been operational now for 4 years under the National Integrity Framework and providing an independent complaint management system for sports. But like anything new, there's always an opportunity and an absolute necessity to review how we operate. And we do listen to how people experience the system, what's working, what's not, where there might be gaps, where things aren't as seamless as they could be or as supportive. So we are formally reviewing the National Integrity Framework, which it's due for review. But what we're also doing is proactively looking at where there are gaps in the system to bring them forward. And there's been a number of things in the operational environment in the past month or so that has brought forward a number of initiatives within that space to make sure that we've got focused attention and that we are absolutely prioritising that work. So things are shaped by the operational environment within those priorities, and things are brought forward with a little more urgency depending on what's happening in the environment. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I guess what is a continuing piece of work too is the community and sports having a greater understanding of what Sport Integrity Australia's role is and the capability of Sport Integrity Australia, especially when it comes to complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, one of the big priorities is increasing that awareness, but building the capability of ourselves and improving, but building that capability across sports, but also through the system as well, through all the layers, because as we all know, sport is happening, and rightly so, at all levels, from community through to elite and professional. And there are different integrity threats at different levels, and they manifest in different ways in different sports. So absolutely,
Yeah.
awareness is absolutely key.
Because trust is very important, isn't it? Trust in the agency, not just in the safeguarding space, but also in anti-doping and the ability to I guess, advise on competition manipulation. So it's very important, isn't it, that every stakeholder has trust in what Sport Integrity Australia does.
Absolutely, that trust, transparency, fairness, consistency, absolutely critical. I think without that, an agency like ours, a regulator, but also a Commonwealth agency, can't really function with legitimacy or accountability or authorisation. So, yeah, it's absolutely essential.
Personally, how does the responsibility of being the CEO sit with you? How do you handle it?
Yeah, so I thought I'd be more nervous, as I said, when I came in acting, but my accountability as a CEO is one I'm firmly committed to, and I check myself daily, if not quite throughout the day, that I am performing the functions of the role as required. That's from ensuring a safe environment for our staff, a safe and supportive environment for our staff, right through to the accountability of our financial performance for the agency. So it's quite diverse, my responsibilities. But the other thing is working in an operational agency, just being really aware that there is always a person or people or a community at the other end of decisions or actions that we are making, and that we need to always be mindful of that and operate with absolute accountability. I think me and early, I remember giving evidence in court in an ACT magistrates court for the first time, probably in around 2000, 2001. I've always got empathy and compassion, and it's just an inherent trait that I've got. Um, so, it's never far from me, and never far from front or back of mind that the decisions that I'm making and the functions of the agency are impacting people's lives. And for me, as the delegate for the anti-doping, or Australia's anti-doping organisation, and for anti-doping rule violations, that is a lived reality, that those decisions I make impact people's lives. And I don't take those decisions lightly. We are a regulator. We are upheld or upholding the World Anti-Doping Code here in Australia. So therefore, it is imperative that we operate with that transparency and accountability within those systems and frameworks. But of course, and you've touched on it earlier, of course, we also seek to change those where we see opportunities. And of course, also need to balance that aspect of the human impact of what we're doing. So it's take the responsibility not lightly, and quite aware and connected with the system we're operating in, but also the impact it has. So
Yeah, so do you have sleepless nights about some of the decisions that you have to make, because there is a huge responsibility on your shoulders?
yeah, absolutely, no, without a doubt. And again, so grateful for the expert advice that we have here in the agency from legal, our legal director and team, right through to our senior executive and integrity complaints teams, and all of them are just really professional and good at what they do, and their advice is trusted and valuable.
2032 is on the horizon. We're on the runway now. Uh, I guess, what do you see as the priorities for Sport Integrity Australia, and what role would you like to see SIA make in the lead up to 2032 and
Yeah.
beyond?
So I think we're in such a fortunate position, as we touched on earlier, just with such a strong legacy that we have. We have such strong foundations, and it really empowers us to be ambitious for the future and to recognise that there are challenges, but we should and could and must face those challenges in the integrity landscape, because without that, we're not going to change, and we're not going to be as effective as we need to be in the future. So there are probably four key pillars, and we're working through a process now to define our strategy. But when I look at our four key pillars out to 2032, it is about future-proofing that sport integrity for Australia. And that, for us or for me, involves leading the way in anticipating the integrity threats. And it could be from emerging doping methodology to globalised sport corruption, right through to online abuse and also the impact of AI on sport for good and for bad. So we need to ensure that collective knowledge, policies, partnerships and systems stay ahead. So that's an absolutely key area for us. Secondly, is championing, and I can't say that word, safe sport. We need to continue to embed integrity into the DNA of sport at every level. We are 5 years in. We are the envy of the world. Others do look to us, but we know we've got more to do. So a focus is about connecting and building capability through the system and across the system, and again with the athlete firmly at the centre of what we do, but most importantly how we do it. Thirdly, with strong partnerships. So we will deepen but also focus our collaboration with our partnerships from sporting bodies, athletes, law enforcement and our international partners to build that protective ecosystem for sport. And lastly, and certainly not least, is education that empowers. We'll continue our firm commitment. We have an excellent education program, again, envy of the world, to make sure that our education is impactful, that it does empower and that it does shape behaviours for the future of sport.
Because it is an opportunity, isn't it, for Sport Integrity Australia to embed integrity into sport, given the focus is going to be very much on Brisbane 2032 with Paralympics and Olympic Games. So it is an opportunity, isn't it, for Sport Integrity Australia?
Absolutely, and it's right there for our taking. And again, I'm talking about opportunities. I'm talking about good things, but it's not to say that I'm not recognising that there are challenges. But absolutely, it's our opportunity to make sure that we open our eyes up and we see what those challenges and opportunities are, and we take those steps to absolutely ingrain integrity in every level of sport, and we support and lead that happening. So it is a real opportunity.
And I guess people watching this now see that there is a public face to Sport Integrity Australia, because that is important, isn't it? That there is a human behind some of the decisions, and it resonates, I guess, with sports people to know that it isn't made lightly, some of the decisions that are made.
No, absolutely. And as I said, I'm grateful for the role. I take it, obviously, and perform the functions with the utmost accountability, and always open to discussing, collaborating, talking and working through those opportunities and challenges together.
Because you're quite open to meeting with people and discussing ideas, because it's a listening operation as well as implementing some of your responsibilities.
Absolutely. Coming into the agency and into sport, I've got a newfound appreciation again for the different perspectives on any one single issue there might be. And it's really important for me to understand and appreciate those perspectives, because it does inform decision making. Sometimes it's hard if we're working in the anti-doping space. Obviously, it's quite a complex and strict framework in which we're operating in, but sometimes there are areas where we can work through and understand and make decisions within the context of that code that are fair. Always open to discussing.
That's good. All right, Sarah, thanks very much for joining us on Onside today. Great to have a chat and explain, I guess, your responsibilities and some of the sleepless nights you go through before making some of those huge decisions. But thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Great to be here.
Thank you. Dr Sarah Benson, CEO of Sport Integrity Australia, and we'll be back with more on Onside very shortly.
You've been listening to Onside, the official podcast of Sport Integrity Australia. Send in your podcast questions or suggestions to media@sportintegrity.gov.au. For more information on Sport Integrity Australia, please visit our website www.sportintegrity.gov.au or check out our Clean Sport app.